When you think of long-standing conflicts in the Middle East, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict often comes to mind. But what about Israel and Lebanon? This complex struggle has shaped geopolitics in the region for over 4 decades, involving not just the two countries, but also global powers, proxy forces, and militant groups. So, how did we get here? And more importantly, where are we headed? The story begins in 1978, during the Lebanese Civil War. Lebanon, a small but strategically located country, was teetering on the brink of collapse. Amid this chaos, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, used southern Lebanon as a base to launch attacks on Israel. In retaliation, Israel launched Operation Litani to push the PLO back and secure its northern border. But this was only the beginning. The real turning point came in 1982, when Israel, in a bold move, launched a full-scale invasion of Lebanon, marching all the way to Beirut. The goal? To root out PLO militants and install a friendly government. The reality? A tangled web of violence, occupation, and insurgency that drew in multiple players, including Syria, Iran, and most notably, a new group called Hezbollah. Hezbollah, born out of the chaos of Israeli occupation and backed by Iran, would become Israel's fiercest opponent in Lebanon. Over the next 2 decades, the conflict transformed from a battle against the PLO to a war of attrition with Hezbollah. Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon became increasingly costly, both in lives and resources. By 2000, after 18 years of occupation, Israel withdrew its forces from Lebanon, marking a significant victory for Hezbollah and shifting the balance of power in the region. Fast forward to 2006, and the fragile peace was shattered. In a bold raid, Hezbollah captured 2 Israeli soldiers, sparking a full-scale war. Israel launched a major military offensive, raining airstrikes on Hezbollah strongholds across Lebanon. But Hezbollah was prepared. For 34 days, the conflict raged, with Israel's military superiority meeting Hezbollah's guerrilla tactics and rocket attacks on Israeli cities. By the end, southern Lebanon lay in ruins, but Hezbollah emerged more politically powerful than ever. This war had lasting consequences. It solidified Hezbollah's reputation as a formidable force in Lebanon and across the Arab world, while also exposing vulnerabilities in Israel's military strategy. Despite overwhelming firepower, Israel couldn't crush Hezbollah. And in Lebanon, Hezbollah's influence only grew, intertwining its political power with its military might. Now, let's turn to today. The conflict between Israel and Lebanon is no longer a straightforward war between two nations. It's a proxy battle between larger powers, Iran, which backs Hezbollah, and Israel, which is supported by the United States and regional allies. The years since 2006 have been marked by tension, but also by quiet periods of preparation. Hezbollah has amassed a significant arsenal, including long-range missiles capable of striking deep into Israeli territory. Meanwhile, Israel has developed advanced missile defense systems, like the Iron Dome, to intercept Hezbollah's rockets. But it's not just about rockets and missiles. The conflict has evolved into a cold war of espionage, cyber attacks, and covert operations. Israel has carried out airstrikes in Syria to disrupt Hezbollah's supply lines, while Hezbollah has expanded its influence, not just in Lebanon but across the region, most notably in Syria and Iraq. The situation today is a powder keg. Any misstep, any small-scale skirmish has the potential to escalate into a full-scale war that could draw in not just regional powers, but global ones too. So, how did history bring us to this precarious point? The seeds of today's conflict were planted in the 1980s, with Israel's invasion and Hezbollah's rise. Over the years, Hezbollah evolved from a local militia to a regional power broker, thanks largely to its backing from Iran and its ability to navigate Lebanon's fractured political system. And while Israel has maintained its military edge, the real challenge lies in Hezbollah's asymmetrical warfare tactics. This is not a conventional conflict. Hezbollah knows it can't defeat Israel on the battlefield, so it fights in the shadows, through proxy battles, political maneuvering, and the ever-present threat of missile attacks. But here's the twist. This isn't just about Israel and Hezbollah. The conflict between these two entities is a microcosm of the larger geopolitical struggle between Israel and Iran, between the US and its adversaries, and between Sunni and Shia forces across the Middle East. One scenario is that the status quo continues, periodic skirmishes, tit-for-tat strikes, but no full-scale war. This has been the pattern for over a decade, with both sides wary of escalating into a conflict that could devastate Lebanon and bring Israel into a drawn-out war. But the other possibility is more troubling. A spark, a miscalculation, a provocation, or even an external actor could ignite a conflict that spirals out of control. Hezbollah's missile capabilities are more advanced than ever, and while Israel's defense systems are strong, they aren't impenetrable. The toll on civilian life could be catastrophic, and the regional implications could pull in Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and even the United States. In the end, the conflict between Israel and Lebanon is a symbol of the broader instability in the Middle East. It's a reminder that history doesn't stay in the past. It shapes the present and influences the future. As we stand on the edge of 2024, it's clear that the Israel-Lebanon conflict is far from over. The history between these two nations is one of violence, resilience, and shifting power dynamics. And while both sides are weary of full-scale war, the reality is that peace remains elusive. In many ways, this is a conflict that reflects the complexities of the modern Middle East, where ancient rivalries, religious divides, and global interests intersect. What happens in Israel and Lebanon is more than a local issue, it's a bellwether for the future of the region.